Hi, I'm Ryan Nickel, CTO at DSA Ocean, and today I want to show you how to do an anchor last deployment using one of the sample projects. So the sample project we're going to work with is the SOS 5 full ocean depth oceanographic mooring. You'll see there's quite a lot of components, and then at the very end there is a generic anchor that is used as well, and it's quite heavy. To be able to do an anchor last deployment, we'll need to make a dynamic export from ProteusDS Oceanographic Designer. So first we go to Analyze, pick Dynamic, then Export. Make a new folder for this project, anchor last deployment, and then save the ProteusDS Simulation Toolbox project name, anchor last deployment. And it'll open up the project file in ProteusDS Simulation Toolbox for us. It's automatically made the input files for this using a CableD object. Now there's a couple things you need to do with the input file to get it ready for an anchor last deployment. The first thing we need to do is activate the anchor. It's commented out, and so we need to turn that on by just deleting the little slashes in front of that anchor at the very bottom. And we need to unpin the node N, which is the anchor node in the simulation. So we want the anchor to be able to move around and be free. So we'll change that node N static from 1 to 0. And the last thing we need to do is change the state of the cable. So if we look at the Previsualizer for this, I'll just close this here. The Previsualizer's got some arbitrary profile right now. We haven't solved for the static profile for this mooring in the current profile, so it's just starting with a diagonal line. For an anchor last deployment, we want it to be lying flat along the water surface. So we click on, make sure we've got mooring selected here in the tree, click on state, and we want to edit the geometry profile for the cable. It'll give you a little warning just saying that the geometry's got some missing information about the spline. It's okay to proceed. This is some really basic information we want to set here. What I like to do is set the node N position. Instead of being at the full ocean depth at 4,500 meters, we'll set that right to the surface. And that's going to start at the water surface and right at 0, 0, 0. And what that means is we need to then move node N all the way to the other end of the mooring to be the whole mooring length away. So we can change this to 0. This is node N. That's where the surface buoy is. Now there's two things you can do. You can do a delta offset, or you can just put in the absolute distance along X. In theory, you could do along Y as well, but I'm just going to do that. So we're going to copy the whole length of the cable, 5905.42, and go OK, and then apply. Now if we go back to look at the Previsualizer view, it helps to see the water surface. If you click on the gears and show water surface selection at the top, you'll see that this is a grid view that follows along the camera. So you'll see that the whole mooring is lying on the surface. Okay, the last thing we need to do is make sure we have enough simulation time to capture the deployment of the mooring. So we'll set this to perhaps 3,000 seconds. I might decrease the output rate here, and we'll hit run. It'll ask us to save the file, and then away it goes. And let this run, and we'll check in on it in a second. Okay, so some time has passed, and we've got some simulation results, and let's take a look at what we've got. So we'll visualize the results. We'll go to Post PDS. And sometimes for something like a mooring deployment, if there's a lot of data, I might specify zone skip. You don't always have to do this. If we do load only every 10th zone, it just means it's going to load every 10th data point from the file. So it loads really quickly that way, which is nice. and I just want to give a brief overview of what we're going to look at here. So I like going to engineering view. We're in orthographic, that's good. And I'm going to go east. So the camera's sitting on the east, looking at the mooring. And there's our mooring there. So if we hit play, you'll see the anchor start to fall. It's only loaded every 10th data point, so it's jumping by 5 seconds at a time or so. And as you can see, this takes a little while. So what I'm going to do is go pause, because I mean it's a 6 kilometer long mooring, so it takes a while to follow through the water column. You can click and drag on the slider and get an idea for how the mooring is transitioning through the water column. So you can see the anchor end leading and pulling the mooring down, and it's just touched down at the end there. So the buoy's following along the surface, and it's reached, you know, kind of a profile after having been pulled through the water column. And of course, you can take a closer look at all the output, like the tensions and different pieces of information in there. But the goal of this was just to show how do you go about setting up an anchor last deployment. That's it. Thanks for watching.